Drake's career is over? What's going on, YouTube? It's only Knox Hill, and we're back with the reaction series. Now look, I've been seeing a lot of comments since Kendrick Lamar has done his pop-out concert. I mean, this was a historical moment in hip-hop that will be discussed, the impact and the legacy for years and years to come. But what I think is interesting is one of the themes of this whole pop-out concert is the common denominator and common enemy of Drake. And while Kendrick's star has risen and he continues to shine even brighter, the real question is, what is the ultimate impact on Drake and his legacy? And is Drake's career over? So I found a video by Fantastic Hip Hop, which is titled talking about this very subject. I thought it would be an interesting point to jump into, so let's check it out right now.
Kendrick Lamar has finally come back outside as he just had his Ken and Friends pop-out concert, and after witnessing Kendrick's first performance following his beef with Drake. I think it's safe to say what we just witnessed is going to go down as one of the greatest moments of not just his career, but for the entirety of hip-hop, because what Kendrick did coming off the momentum of the biggest rap beef of the 21st century was legendary in every sense of the word, as he...
How old are you, OG creator? Biggest rap beef of the 21st century? Jay-Z, Nas? Are we forgetting about some of these great moments? Common and Ice Cube? 50 Cent, Ja Rule, 50 Cent The Game, Eminem, Ja Rule, Eminem, MGK. I mean, there's a lot of beefs over the years. We can't just give it. Hang on, that deserves a whole different video and discussion. Maybe that's for another day. I'm getting ahead of myself. Let's get back to this one. But yeah, I mean, legendary moment, monumental, will be talked about for many, many years to come. Check, 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 check. One of the greatest MCs in the game, and Kendrick Lamar, check, check.
For the entirety of hip-hop, because what Kendrick did coming off the momentum of the biggest rap beef of the 21st century was legendary in every sense of the word, as he used all of the hype and excitement in the air to put together an event truly like no other. And of course, as everybody else is touching new levels of greatness, the downfall of Drake has just reached a new low, as after everything that went down here, there should not be a single person on this planet that thinks that Drake...
Where did he find this shot? No.
Down here. There should not be a single person on this planet that thinks that Drake somehow still came out of this as a winner, or even in a manner where his career isn't in sheer and utter ruin, because with this performance, Kendrick didn't take the route most artists would, which would just be to capture the success of what went down, perform the diss tracks live, and cash a nice check off all the hype. But instead of this, just like everything...
Which he did do. I mean, obviously, it's a smart business move. Like, let's capitalize on all the momentum and attention. The even smarter move, and maybe this is me speaking selfishly right now, would be for Kendrick to drop an album within, like, the next month or two, you know? And just the numbers that album would do would be astronomical.
Tracks live, and cash a nice...
And I just want to listen to a Kendrick album and break it down.
Check off all the hype. But instead of this, just like everything else Kendrick Lamar has done in his career, this performance was calculated, extremely well thought out, and super powerful. And while there are many reasons of why this was...
The devil is in the details. Details? Entrails meets details? I don't know how I came up with that word. That's my word of the day. But the devil is in the details for Kendrick Lamar. It always has been. Like, his artistry and his attention to detail, from the production to the lyricism to the visuals to everything, is so methodical, and there's so much substance packed into there. The same with this performance when I broke it down, the amount of thought that went into it.
All comes back to the fact that from the moment the show started to the moment it ended, every single thing that went down just further invalidated all of Drake's diss tracks, which have just aged like milk at this point. And what's even more brilliant is that this wasn't because Kendrick was trying to spite him exactly, but Kendrick literally just proved that he is the clear winner of this beef, and that everything Drake has said is not just wrong, but it was genuinely embarrassing to even...
That's where we started. With J. Cole and Drake right there. Well, actually, we started over a decade ago, but recently this is where we started from.
Put in a song by just acting and showing who he really is. Now, the first way this was shown was in the initial leg of the show, which featured a set DJ'd by the one and only DJ Head, and with this opening act, we got to see an array of unsung and underrated talent from the West Coast get their chance to shine on the biggest stage in rap this year during a concert that was not just attended by nearly 20,000 people, but that was also being watched and followed by millions online. Now, there was a lot of West Coast artists who got to shine bright on such a big stage, and especially in this portion, Guys like Jason Martin, Jay Worthy, and Westside Boogie were more ready for this moment than ever, and by giving these underrated and hungry MCs...
We did Westside Boogie on the channel. I also broke down Westside Boogie's album on a Twitch live stream. Man, I mean, it's like the Eminem effect at the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame speech, right? This is your moment as an artist. You could be selfish, you could make it all about you and just fully capitalize on it. But instead, you choose to use your platform to further hip-hop and to shout out and give back to others. Whether it's all the shout-outs that he gave on this night, but also in terms of the artists that performed at this show, who also got the eyes and the ears and the attention from all this. Shout out to Kendrick for it, man.
Is the chance to show off their skills, be discovered by fans who would have otherwise never known them, and even have the chance to go viral online by having so much exposure. Right off the bat, by just caring about the artists in his community. Kendrick destroyed Drake's lines on Family Matters about him not giving back and showing love to where he is from, as by sharing the stage with so many artists that, while not being anywhere near Kendrick's size, are from the same place he is. It just shows from the very ground of this performance and on the most fundamental level what Kendrick was trying to pull off here. And as things went on, this only became more and more clear during DJ Mustard's set, which showcased so many of the biggest rappers and artists from the West Coast riding off every
shout out DJ Mustard, man.
Kendrick did leading up to this, which when it comes to the most important moment of the night in terms of humiliating Drake during this portion of the show, while seeing artists like Steve Lacy and Roddy Ricch on stage show that they are siding with their hometown over even the slightest chance of getting a Drake feature, and while Tyler the Creator garnered the most excitement from the crowd, not just because it was insane to see him rep the West Coast in this manner that was so unexpected, but also just because he's one of the biggest stars in rap and one of music's most exciting performers. What really was a bad look for Drake in this moment was when YG came out, as one of Drake's biggest so-called chess moves during the Kendrick feud was his attempt to try to tear Kendrick's closest people, whether it was his label mates or rappers that he came up with apart from him, and especially in this regard, he really went all in on destroying Kendrick from his hometown when he shouted out YG on Family Matters and tried to pretty much force him to be on Team Drake. But despite this, YG showed that one of Drake's biggest moves in the entire feud when it came to hurting Kendrick in this beef absolutely fell flat on his face. As
I wouldn't say it's one of his biggest moves. Like, bigger moves to me are the, abuse of Whitney allegations, and then obviously the ownership and owning of masters and who's controlling who. I think those were much bigger allegations from Drake versus this right here. But yeah, it's definitely a chess move from Kendrick and a smart flip of the YG. Like, the diss tracks are over. But what I really feel like this show did, and that's why I wanted to react to this video, is because showing levels that Kendrick still was moving chess pieces within this performance. He was still rebuttaling diss track aspects. And that's the thing. I feel like a lot of the critique of Kendrick that was trying to be weaponized against him was, well, he's not rebuttaling everything in a diss track. Well, Kendrick just stayed in attack mode, and he chose not to rebuttal some things. He probably heard some of the things about like YG, about his, tie-in with TDE, because TDE was tweeting, following, supporting Kendrick the whole time, showing how close they are within camp and with everything. I talked about just following the tweets if you want to stay up with the news on what's going on that side of camp, because Kendrick likes to stay quiet about things and just keep it on the wax, where if you really want to get a thought for how things are moving and what could be coming, keep an eye on the TDE post. But anyways, I'm kind of digressing. What I'm getting at is, there's certain lines I'm sure Kendrick heard was like, I don't need to rebuttal that. I'll just prove that and let actions speak louder than words as time goes on. And this is a great example of those actions speaking louder than words, but it's also a way just to show the unity, how he puts on for the West, and just to rebuttal Drake without actually dropping a diss track at all.
Entire feud when it came to hurting Kendrick in this beef absolutely fell flat on his face, as YG didn't just come out and show support for Kendrick as he channeled what it meant to be a West Coast MC in the arena like only few other guests did, but that he has his own problems with the OVO rapper, because from his subliminal diss a few weeks ago to the way he aggressively told DJ Mustard to cut him and Drake's collab Who Do You Love short right before Drake's part came on, which I don't think many people noticed yet, as just so many things went down.
Wow.
All in all, by giving smaller rappers from his hometown the chance to shine on what may go down as the biggest night of his career, and by having rappers Drake once considered friends and pawns that he could move against Kendrick like YG, show that this beef has only brought him, Kendrick, and their coast closer together. Drake's diss tracks hold almost little to no weight at all anymore, because aside from the lies and the invalidation of his entire strategy that of course we saw on the disaster of the Heart Part 6, The remaining jabs that still held any sort of validity on a cut like Family Matters don't even make remote sense anymore and just have shown themselves to be even more elaborate lies that Drake created, and when it comes to Drake being maybe the biggest liar in rap. When Kendrick came out to perform in the final act of the show.
That's interesting. This makes me kind of want to go back and do like a reanalysis of the disses to see where things have, you know, been revealed or been denied or what's been rebutted as time has progressed. But I think I still want to see how some things shake out first. But that's an interesting concept for a video later on to do.
It really showed off just how delusional and insane.
And you know what's funny is he's talking about it uniting the West Coast, but I feel like this situation has just like united the whole United States. Like I said, like I'm an East Coast boy, right? Like even cruising around the East Coast, I'm from PG County, right? Which is a notorious hip-hop community and area. Like you just go out in the county, right? Like I said, just going to Giant and just walking through the parking lot, and you hear the amount of cars that have the windows down in the middle of the summer that are still playing and still jamming out to Not Like Us. He didn't just bring the West Coast together, he brought the East Coast, he brought everywhere together.
The OVO rapper is, and ultimately, when we look at all of this in totality, it really leaves Drake's disses and strategy as some of the worst drawn up ever in a major feud, because as everyone remembers, another one of the main digs.
I mean, hindsight is always 2020. It's easy to say these are the worst disses and rebuttals ever. I mean, listen, I'm not going to take all that away from Drake, right? Kendrick won the battle. We could say that Kendrick won, right? Kendrick is a better MC at the end of the day. It's not hard going into the battle to think, yeah, Kendrick's got a really good chance to win this because he's just a better MC. That's it. We already knew that going into this, but it's a battle. You never know what's going to happen. You never know what tea's going to get spilled. You never know how a battle can shake out. It's like going into a game, right? You've got the favorite, you've got the 1 seed, and sometimes the 16 seed might pull an upset. And Drake could have pulled an upset. I don't think Drake did a bad job in this battle. I just think Kendrick was better, right? Kendrick put out some just absolute fire and creative angles and artistic perspectives that just outshone Drake, that just simplified Drake and made Drake just seem lesser from a technical perspective and a creative perspective. But Drake still held his own. Kudos to Drake for firing back as much as he did, for staying in this battle, for dealing with the drama, for holding his own, for standing on 10 toes down. Like, you still have to respect a gladiator for stepping into the ring and not backing out. He still fought. And he still fought at his best level. I'm not going to sit here and say that Drake made all these mistakes and it was awful what he did. No, he still fired off some solid diss tracks. He had people talking, right? Even when it first got started and we didn't have Kendrick's responses yet, people were like, oh, okay. The issue was that once Kendrick started responding, you started to see just the different levels and layers between the two as MCs.
Drake tried to get in on.
Drake still held his own though. Like you can't take that away from Drake. Come on, don't do that. Don't change the narrative like that. Like, respect to Drake for stepping into the ring, for fighting, for swinging, for throwing his punches, for throwing his haymakers, man. There's gonna be winners and losers. It happens.
Kendrick to tear him up from the inside was by saying that he gets more love than Lamar in Kendrick's home city, and that Kendrick is not really as big as he seems, and that he doesn't even belong in a big three. And during Kendrick's performance,
well, of course he's gonna say all that. It's a battle.
He made sure that nobody will even think these things again, as he disputed all these ideas, as he delivered one of the greatest sets of his career, but not just because of his energy or the fact that he ran through his greatest hits, but because of how he put every single lie that was ever told about him during this beef to rest. Now, no moment showed this better than where Kendrick came out to his first full-on response track to Drake, Euphoria, which in a beef whereas more points were placed on the board, the higher risk there was for one artist's net of attacks to just cave in. With a track like Euphoria, as Kendrick did his research and made a piece of music that wasn't flimsy enough to just crumble when his opponent responded on impact. Everything he said here still applies to Drake and beyond what it represented when the song came out. The song is now becoming this ever-evolving musical hit piece that doesn't just reflect Kendrick's thoughts on Drake when he wrote it, but that also echo what he is thinking in the very present moment of where the rivalry is at, as during this performance. While of course Kendrick repeated most of the timeless jabs which will probably apply to Drake and haunt him forever.
I love that we're just showing classic Kendrick videos over top of this.
He also added in some new lines, like when he said, "Give me Tupac's ring back and might give you a little respect." Now compare this to Drake's diss tracks, which have only dissolved into embarrassing rants of delusional gossip.
You think Drake will give the ring back eventually? Comment down below.
And the all-time failure of Drake is only more apparent and during the performance. One of the most
Again, like, you know me, I'm always going to call things how they are. I'm going to give you my unfiltered opinion. Like, he's painting it like Kendrick was right on every single thing he said about Drake, but he's like purposefully ignoring Meet the Grams. I know Kendrick didn't play Meet the Grams, but we have that whole allegation about another kid and having a daughter on Meet the Grams that we still don't have proof is true, that Drake has denied and multiple sources have denied. So therefore, you can't say that Kendrick was right and truthful on everything that he said. There's also another list of allegations that we could get into that's very serious and wild, and we need to still check the PDF files on, you know?
Gossip, and the all-time failure of Drake is only more apparent and during the performance. One of the most beautiful moments of the entire concert was when Kendrick Lamar, J-Rock, Ab-Soul, and Schoolboy Q reunited on stage as Black Hippie, and after a time where it seemed like this group was just not making music
I still regret not reacting to that Schoolboy Q track that dropped earlier this year.
Together anymore, and that they also may have not been cool with Kendrick, which was the rumor that Drake tried to use against him throughout his diss tracks as he talked about how Kendrick's label TDE does not respect him. On top of this moment being one of the most powerful things the genre has seen in years, it just melts off another one of the ways Drake tried to take Kendrick down and overall. With the failure of Drake's entire barrage of diss tracks against Kendrick Lamar never being seen greater than right in this moment where during the concert his words were not just proven to be false, but as Kendrick delivered moment after moment, especially in instances where he performed like that and the arena was so energized as he declared there was no longer a big three, and when Kendrick went on to perform Not Like Us 5 times in a row, which from the amount of times the crowd got too hyped and had to restart the song to when everyone from Compton at the show came up on stage to dance and celebrate the anthem they created, which resulted.
Look at the Reds and the Blues. I talked about this. Bringing together Bloods and Crips and people of all backgrounds. It was really a moment to unite and show off the power of the West Coast, the power of Kendrick Lamar, and the power of hip-hop, man.
In this
beautiful fucking moment.
Real moment where Kendrick Lamar, Black Hippie, DJ Mustard, YG, Steve Lacy, Russell Westbrook, DeMar DeRozan, and so many others were just turning
and you had the whole NBA involved
together. As thousands in the arena and millions in the world galvanized behind Kendrick to not even really diss Drake, but just to celebrate hip-hop, the West Coast, and as Kendrick Lamar expressed towards the end of the show, a rare moment of unity where so many people came together. Ultimately, while this show was as hyped up as it was because of the Drake beef, Kendrick Lamar used this performance to make a moment so much bigger than a feud in rap could ever be, and because of this, Lamar didn't just make history in one of the most unexpected and meaningful ways he could have with this show, but by almost ignoring Drake in a way and making these moments that blossomed from the root of his and Kendrick's tensions into what feels like the revival of the true spirit and essence of what hip-hop represents, especially on the regional level. Kendrick's managed to humiliate Drake more than anyone could have expected, as his loss isn't just going to give one man a victory, but it's
yeah, I mean, listen, this is what a artist like Kendrick Lamar is capable of doing. You know, you take this moment and you transform it and you metamorphosize it, almost like taking a caterpillar, cocooning it into pipping a butterfly. That's kind of what he did with this concert and with this moment. He just transformed it and had it be a transcendent level of a hip-hop experience and moment and pillar that will always be talked about and remembered.
Fired the entire spirit of a genre.
But what I will say again, like compared to the video and some of just my raw thoughts in reaction to this, like still one of the uniting factors was dissing Drake. It wasn't let's all come together and like celebrate. It was let's all come together and dance at this man's funeral service and step on this grave and crypt walk all over it.
To be in the most unified place it has been, and if this beef can do all this, it really adds another medal to Kendrick's jacket because it's showing how even in a situation that seems so negative as he went into a lyrical gladiator match that really did get intense at times, it was ultimately for the betterment of hip-hop and what he cares about most. So while this beef may never be truly over if Drake continues...
I don't know, I think he really hates Drake. Like... There were levels of pettiness to that show. I think he really just hates Drake.
Ride off the momentum of his failure, and eventually, I am sure we will get another Kendrick diss on his end in the form of a subliminal shot. It's clear that with this legendary
new album. We'll have to see what he does with it.
Concert that we will be talking about for years to come. Kendrick Lamar showed that he didn't just win the beef, but that he brought hip-hop back into its purest form in decades. So let me know, what do you think of this concert and everything that went down? Let me know your favorite moments in the comments. I can't wait to hear what you have to say. And if you want to see why Pharrell Williams just dissed Drake, check out the suggested video.
There we go. So, I think the biggest thing and the biggest question is all lights and all eyes are on Kendrick. And we know, I think it's pretty unspoken at this point, the legacy that Kendrick Lamar has cemented from this situation. Going into this situation, we did have discussions of a big three. Coming out of this situation, there's only discussions of Kendrick Lamar. I mean, shout out to J. Cole. He's one of my favorite MCs ever. I love Cole. But obviously, he decided to move a different way in this situation. But as a result of that, I think what has happened in the public eye is it has just shifted the full spotlight and focus onto Kendrick Lamar and Drake. And then we saw Kendrick Lamar just completely run away with the crown. But that's Kendrick's side of things. What I want to see, and what will be interesting to watch play out, and this is going to be a time thing. It's not going to be a couple month thing, a 6-month thing. It's going to be over the years. I'm interested to see where Drake's legacy falls into place after all this. Because I think ultimately, this is a humbling moment for Drake, right? Drake has been killing it in terms of numbers, in terms of the charts, in terms of what he does. But I think Drake has also showed insecurities over the years, whether it's battling a music reviewer in the name of Anthony Fantano, or all the many, many feuds and issues that he's had over the years. I think it has shown some cracks in Drake's armor, even though he's doing these absurd numbers. And you can't take away his level of success. I think there's always been some crumbling underneath of the psyche of Drake and some self-doubt there. Why continue to fire back at the critics? Why continue to just have a lot of these situations that could be simple misunderstandings that could be settled with phone calls? It seems like pride and things and insecurities get in the way. But it seemed like this is all culminated into how Kendrick responded to Drake and the amount of people that got behind Kendrick and seemed to jump ship on Drake. So I think this is very humbling for Drake. And see, when you lose and when you have these humbling moments, they don't have to be the end. This doesn't have to be the end of Drake's career. Drake still has plenty of fans. Drake is still going to do numbers. But now we're starting to look at Drake's legacy. I think Drake is going to have to do some soul searching. I think he can take this, and if he learns from it, I think there is still a way for Drake to continue rising and to find a lane to be accepted and to progress the history and his impact that his music has had. Dropping songs like Wagwan Delilah is not going to do that. That feels like a failed experiment, feels like a misdirection, smoke and mirrors, but I think Drake needs to find a more meaningful path now if he really wants to have his legacy be talked about, more positively 10, 15, 20 years from now. But again, that's a time thing. We're going to see how it shakes out. We're going to see how it happens. No, Drake's career is not over. But yeah, Drake took some punches. And while I wouldn't say that Drake is like completely finished, what's happened is Kendrick has continued to climb and continue to rise. And he's just brought more spotlight to what he does to the West Coast. And long live lyricism. Long live lyrical hip hop. Thank you so much for that, Kendrick. But I don't know. What do you guys think of the situation? Comment down below. Share. Let me know. I thought that'd be an interesting video, an interesting discussion, a topic to talk about as we start to reflect and look upon the impact of his Juneteenth show. Thank you as always, guys. Subscribe, notifications on. I love you. Stay safe, stay positive. It's only Knox Hill. I'll catch you again.